friends, we are on the 23rd of Kislev. Chav Gimel Kislev marks the Hilula of a great rabbi from Meknes. His name was Rabbi Yehudah Ohana Z'tl, one of the great rabbis from the Ohana rabbinic dynasty in of itself, a really great family that will end up becoming great rabbis all over the various different vicinities in of itself. Now, he was born in English year 1796, was reported over, and passed away in English year 1872. Very interesting. I think, to be precise, on December 23rd, according to another place, he was born in the year 1795, but he was very much one of the great rabbis from Meknes in of itself. And let's explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life. Now, as we said before, he was actually one of the forefathers of the rabbinic dynasty of the Ohana family, and there's actually a very, very interesting family tree, which I'll put on the thumbnail of the video in of itself. I actually think the Ohana family, obviously the roots, I think, come from Meknes in of its origination. I think the first known by this name, let's say, was Rabbi Suleiman Ohana, who was, I think, from the Ari residence in of itself. Very interesting enough. So he was born when 1795, 1796. He came from a great rabbinic heritage in of itself. Very interesting enough. I believe his father's name was Rabbi Yosef Ohana, very, very great rabbi. He happened to be in of himself. And he would get married to his wife. His wife's name was Rabbanit Jamila Ohana. Very a great person. And it's actually interesting. He was very close, actually, to his grandson, Rabbi Raphael Ochana. Now, it was reported over that Rabbi Raphael Ochana, he was orphaned, I think, at the age of 15 years of age, and he would actually, I think, travel with Rabbi Yehudah to the land of Israel when I think he was 15 years of age, if I'm not mistaken. And he actually says himself about the greatness of Rabbi Yehudah Ohana, how he was working in business beforehand, and let's say he stopped working in business and in trade in of itself, and he established like a residence in and a huge Torah study in his house, and was learning pretty much non-stop. And it's reported over he would come to Israel and with his wife at that point in time towards the latter part of his life, and will really become great in of itself. And at that point in time, I think he would settle in Tiberias. Remember, Tiberias is one of the 4 holy cities of Israel, as well with Tzfat, Hebron, and Jerusalem. So we actually go inside that vicinity in of itself. He had various great sons, rabbis, including Rabbi Chaim Ohana, Yaakov Ohana. Also, I think there was another family that was connected to the Burdugo later on, connected to the Burdugo family, if I'm not mistaken. Rav Shalom Ohana also, and I believe other children also, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, I think it was most of his kids were actually born, or a lot of them were born in Meknes himself, especially Rabbi Chaim Ohana, I think, was born when he was 30 years of age in the year 1825, and Rabbi Yaakov Ohana was born in Tefelat, Meknes area in of itself, in the year 1846, if I'm not mistaken. Very interesting enough. And I think one of his daughters was Rabbanit Clara Ohana also, and Rav Shalom Ohana, as we mentioned before. Very, very great people. Would eventually end up in Tiberias, and he would actually get buried there. And interesting enough, the rabbinic dynasty of Ochana is very, very interesting. It goes many, many generations. I believe he himself happens to be, if I'm not mistaken, there's actually a family tree. I think Yaakov Ohana, then it goes to Yosef Ohana, then Yehuda Ohana, and it goes down, so on and so forth. Many, many great rabbis. I think he was a father to, I think, actually, interesting enough, I think Rab Maknin, from the children, he would have a daughter. There would be a Maknin Berdugo, who would also give birth to Yehuda, and what later on would expand into a family, and many of them became great rabbis in of itself. Very interesting. Now, maybe we will dedicate a video at a later stage within regards to the rabbinic dynasty in of itself, especially Rabbi Yaakov Ochana, would actually be born in the year 1846 and become, let's say, just say one of the great rabbis of Meknes in of itself. Among his descendants, Rabbi Yitzchak Ochana, who would become the rabbi of Kiryat Shmona and would pass away in English year 1992. And Rabbi Yosef Ochana, most famously, passed away in the year 2018. He would become the rabbi of Kiryat Motzkin, if I'm not mistaken. He passed away. He was a great rabbi in itself of those vicinities, and many other great rabbis there would be, actually, especially most notably Rabbi Raphael Ochana, who we mentioned about at the beginning. He himself, I think, moved to the land of Israel, 1865, with Rabbi Yehudah Ohana, who we talked about today. Yes, it was in 1865. It was 7 years. So Rabbi Yehudah Ohana, he would move to Israel 7 years before he passed away. And it's actually interesting. His grandson, Rabbi Raphael Ohana, would actually go out as a shluchei d'Rabbanan. He would do a huge amount of great Torah work. He would go to Bukhara in Uzbekistan, respectively, and become a shluchei d'Rabbanan representing the city of Tiberias, and do huge amounts. He would travel to Iraq, to Syria, to India, and various different places, and also to the various different parts of Africa in of itself. That was his grandson, and he eventually, I believe, would pass away in the English year 1902 and be buried in the burial plot of close to the famous Arizal in Tzfat, respectively. And among more of his generations, I think the son-in-law actually of Rabbi Raphael Ohana, which would make a descendant of Rabbi Yehudah Ohana, was Rabbi Moshe Meir Chai Elikim, another great rabbi we've spoken about before, who was, I think, passed away himself in the year 1939. And I think his one of his great-granddaughters would get married to Margaret would get married to famous Rabbi Raphael Abu, another rabbi we've spoken about before, who was a famous Dayan and a judge, part of the great rabbis of Jerusalem himself. He himself passed away in English year 1983. So he left many, many great descendants of his. In fact, his grandson, Rabbi Raphael Ohana, we've just spoken about, also just to add on, he wrote various different great Torah books, including Tovat Mara'ah, Yisod Marabi, Mareh HaYeladim, and many other great books. Hopefully we'll cover also a video at one stage of Rabbi Raphael Ohana. I think his Hilula himself is on Chaf Zayin Ba'av. However, the Hilula of Rabbi Yehudah Ohana is here on Chaf Gimel over here of this month, Kislev, 2 days before Hanukkah. Please don't forget to light candles in his memory. If you happen to be related to any of these great rabbis, please send me an email. I would love to hear more about them. Please subscribe to the channel. We've covered more than 550 rabbis of yesteryear. We're a community here. Share the videos if anyone will be interested. I'm wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom, because I'm recording this just before Parshat Vayeshev here in Israel. So take care and be well.